Hi everyone, this is Thelma with SewItYourself.com, and today I would like to go over or just review some of the basic parts of the sewing machine so that you will be familiar with it or you won't feel so intimidated with it when you start sewing your projects or when you have purchased your machine or you borrowed one or whatever the case may be. I just want to go over the basic parts to pretty much all sewing machines, no matter what they are, what brand they are, how old they are, whether they are manual or electronic. Some of these parts are very much the same. Okay, so let's get started. So I want to use my vintage Bernina that I have here that you're looking at right now. And then I want to go to try and do some comparisons with the newer one that I have, which is a computerized sewing machine. So that way, just in case you are dealing with a computerized machine, or as stated here, this is an older machine back in the 70s, and it's very popular now. And lots of people are purchasing them on eBay. I've had this one since, right out of college. And I've used it up until a couple of years ago when I purchased the computerized one over here. Okay, so let's utilize this and we'll just make some comparisons. So pretty much all the machines will have or need to have some way of having, connecting or making it work. And of course we want to start with where we have the plug-in electrical cord here, and this one will go to the foot presser, where you will put it on place this on the floor, and then you control your stitches or your sewing with this foot presser. Now, if you plug it in here, and then you take this cord, you have two. One is for the foot presser, and the other end goes into the wall or to an outlet. And then, of course, this connector goes in the back. Now, this one goes in the back. Now, you may have some machines where it's like on my other one, it actually has the plug-in on the side right here. If we go here, the plug-in is on the side right here. So yours may be a little different, but not to be concerned that all of them would need some way to make the machine go, right? So now I do have an old Singer, whereas when I used to go to my grandmother's, the machine, you had to make it go, you actually had a little lever that goes up and down like this, a foot presser, and you would control it like that, which I thought was fun at the time. But now, of course, technology has improved, everything gets advanced and supposedly better, but it just depends on your preference. So we've talked about connecting it to an outlet to make sure that it runs. We talked about the foot presser right here, and the other one has a foot presser as well. And so let's kind of go over the basic parts. Now you've got to have a place to hold your thread. Okay, so let's see on this one. Let's take it up a little bit so you can see that. Now here, these are your little spindles for your spools. So here we've got two. 1, 2, right? And then usually there are some little felt pieces that are on the thread holder. Mine is pretty old. I guess I should get another one maybe, right? But basically what it's for is that it sits at the bottom so that the thread does not get caught around the spindle as you're sewing. Sometimes the thread can get caught. So there's one on each one of these. And then the same thing is on the other one, except for theirs is more spongy. You've got like a little sponge here, see, for this, right here. So it has a little sponge. Okay, so, and I usually either take it off of here and put it on here depending on which one of these I'm using. All right, so gotta have a place to hold your thread. So that's here and here. Okay, additionally, you gotta have a place, you've gotta have a bobbin. Now, the bobbin is the little, this is normally wound with thread. You can place it on the bobbin winder. You would take your thread here and then wrap it around here and then cut it on. I think I have it on. No, I don't have it on. And back to another part. Normally, all machines have some type of switch to cut it on. Even though you've got it plugged in, you also have a switch. And usually that controls the light as well. So here, if I cut that on, then I will be able to like wind this bobbin. Now, my vintage Bernina record, in order for me to not have the needle going up and down at the same time that I'm winding the bobbin, you actually have a little wheel on the inside of the hand wheel. This wheel here loosens the control, and that controls the needle up and down. So see, even though I turn the wheel, it's not, the needle isn't going up and down because I've loosened it here because I want to wind the bobbin. So if I push this, let's see if I have everything on right, you can actually wind the bobbin. I don't have it threaded correctly. Let's see. So I have it wrapped around. Each one of you will probably need to take a look at your manual to kind of see which way to, did I cut it on? Which way to thread your bobbin to make sure you've got it turned on correctly. And let me see, did I have it? Okay, so if I have this loosened, okay, then if I lock this in and use my foot presser to control the motor, that's what I didn't do, then you can wind the bobbin like so. Okay, except for I think I have it on wrong. Okay, this one looks like, and it has a little guide at the top to tell you which way to have it going, right? Let me see, make sure. Okay, so you see that I'm able to wind the thread on the bobbin. I'm just gonna do a little. All right, take that off. Then I will cut it, and there's a place for, and tighten the wheel, the inside wheel. Then I can turn it and control the needle. So once the bobbin has been, there's thread on the bobbin, then you will have to take out a bobbin case. Okay, every machine should have a bobbin case. Some of them may not come out like this. Some you may have it as you see here, where you have to drop the little door and pull out a bobbin case to hold it. Or some will have a bobbin that you drop in on top. Now, each machine kind of does its own thing, depending on the brand. and it's just the way that that particular one, you know, a different brand has decided, or the design of that particular brand, should I say. This one, and you'll notice that pretty much on all the Berninas, whether it is a vintage one or a newer one, all of theirs are underneath where you have to drop where you would drop the drawer here. See, open the door, and then there's a bobbin case that was in here. Okay, and this one has a bobbin that looks a little bit different than the other one. Okay, so either way, all machines will require a bobbin that will hold the lower thread. I'm just showing you the differences so you're not really intimidated when you see that yours is a little bit different than what I have described here. So we're going to go back to the other machine and go over the basic parts again. Okay, so I want to explain something regarding the bobbin. When I got ready to wind the bobbin here on this vintage machine, because I've been using the other one, what I'm used to, I have grown accustomed to, is the fact that like when you thread this and push this, you also, and loosen the hand wheel, the inner wheel, and you lock it, you also have to press on the foot presser, you know, in order for it to go, okay, like that. On the other one, okay, look at this one. When I use this one, when I put the bobbin on and press this, it automatically goes, and it just tells me on the screen. Now, there's no need for me to press on the foot presser to make it go. It's a separate little winder, basically, which is, you know, really good. But the confusion lies in depending on when I use, which one I use the most, and this one has been the machine that's set up mostly here at home, and now I use my vintage machine when I take any classes or, you know, have to go anywhere. I take it with me instead of taking the larger one. It's a little smaller, doesn't weigh as much, so that is why, that's the reason for the confusion here. So, but back to the basics. Once you wind your bobbin in here, so I've got a separate one in here, you have to fit it in the case and then take it through the tension slits, right? So there's a place that you would take the thread through in order to give it the proper amount of pressure coming out of this case so that it makes a little loop to make sure the threads are connected and so you're seeing. So now we've got we've got the places, we've got the spindles to hold the thread, and then in order for, I've shown you how to do the bobbin, wind a bobbin, then you have to thread, what we call thread the machine. Here in back of this machine, I'm going to turn it around so you can see. As I said, they're all going to be different, possibly. There's a little holder right here that you've got to make sure your thread is caught in. It's basically going to get, it's a thread guide. Then I'm going to turn it back around so that you see what else happens. So all I'm doing in order to thread this machine is to hit that thread guide. Okay, I'm going to take it out so I can, didn't have to. All right, and then you're going to take it through the tension plate. Okay, so here, going to take it through a tension plate. Now, mind you, it may be a little different on your machine, but not to worry. You're getting to the end result of threading the machine. Then I'm taking it through this thread guide as well. Then this is called the take-up lever. Okay, I've got to tighten my wheel again. See, this takes the needle, and pretty much this is the basic for making sure that the threads form a little loop once it's in, once it goes down in the bobbin. It's got to be able to go through, catch a thread out of the bobbin in order for it to form a stitch. So we've gone through the little thread guide in the back, through the tension plate, through another thread guide here, and then up to the take-up lever. And then there's another little thread guide right by the needle, okay? And then from there, you're able to thread your machine. So if I take this out, I'm going to cut it off some, don't need it. I've gotten accustomed to a little semi threader, whereas this one you've got to do manually. So here I've threaded the needle, okay? But there's a thread guide here, and then I'm pulling it aside. In addition to that, most machines primarily, the basic part is you have what is called a presser foot. This presser foot can, this is the main one, the basic one. You can change them out depending on what you're doing to the garment that you're sewing. If you've got to put on buttonholes, or you put on a button, there are different feet for different functions. So this one is dial zeros, number 000 is just a basic straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. See, the teeth are wide enough for the stitch width to go crosswise rather than just a straight stitch, but you can do them both with this. And this brand, Bernina, it has the foot and the shank all in one most of the time, and you just put it back on. It's a little pointed shank, what I call a shank here, and then you can put it back on and then press the lever behind it to hold it up. Okay, others may have an extended shank, for lack of a better word, and all you have to do is put the little foot on. All right, but here's different. So once we put that on, this helps hold the fabric down in addition to help form the stitch. Now when you put fabric on the machine, then it needs something in between the foot and the fabric to make sure it's being moved along. So these are little teeth here, which is considered to be the feed dog. Okay, let's see if I can get you closer so you can see the little teeth. And pretty much right here. And these can go up or down depending on what you're doing. So let's say if I am wanting to control it myself, then I have a switch on this machine. Okay, so I can control it by making a switch from a zigzag and a straight stitch, which is the little icons or symbols here, to what they call a darning foot, a darning stitch. And when I make this switch, these feet go down. Okay, so if I turn this, see, the feet went down. If I put it back on the zigzag or the straight stitch, the little feet will come back up. Now on another machine, okay, this one, it has a little switch on the side, a button on the side that you would press in right on the side. You press it in and the feet go down on it. Okay, so you'll see different variations of the same thing. It just depends on the machine that you have. But of course, you're always going to refer to your manual. But just in case you don't have a manual or you want to get started and you're a little intimidated with it, don't be, I hate to say just don't be, but all it requires is just you're going to practice. You're going to you see that here on this machine it's a little bit different, but all of them have a place for your thread, a place to guide the thread all the way down to the needle. Then they all have a bobbin where you're going to make sure that you can sew. Make sure that the two threads are going to loop together to form the stitch. Then you've got a place to wind the bobbin, okay, which I've shown you, and you've got what is called the hand wheel, which controls the up and down movement of the needle, up and down, or not. If you loosen it, it winds the bobbin. It just depends. Then what you're looking at are a variety of, you can have a variety of stitches. On this one, you've got, it shows you all the different stitches that it makes. And you would either have your little dowel in the 1 through 20 up here, or if you want to do zigzag, then you would just move this to zigzag. And it will basically switch over to zigzag where the needle is going across, as well as pulling the thread through to give you, pulling the fabric through to give you a zigzag stitch. All right, so I'm going to put this back to 1 through 20, even though I have the 20, these are the number of stitches I have. I'm able to decorative stitches as well as the straight stitch or catch stitch, depending on what I want to do. All right, so additionally, you will have some way to tell the machine that you want, how wide you want your zigzag stitch is here, right? Most times it's at 0 if you're doing a straight stitch. And then, but this gives it width to space it out. Now, this one here will help you with how long you want the stitch. So normally, I may have mine at 2.5, but depending on, like I said, what type of fabric I'm sewing on, or the type of stitch, if the instructions are saying to baste means you want to have a long stitch. So I'm going to turn it here to where the dowel will line up with the 4. All right, if I turn it and the dowel lines up with 2.5, then that's pretty much normal what I would do. But this controls the length, one controls the width. Here you're just going to turn it. And then this, as it shows here, is a buttonhole stitch. Helps me with buttonholes, but it's manual. So what I'd have to do is once I've got the settings right here, then I'd actually have to turn it to, and as I turn this one, you'll notice that this one goes to a certain width. Then I will turn it again and it goes to the longest width. Here's forming a buttonhole. If I turn here to the number 3, it makes a smaller stitch like a little zigzag stitch. Then if I turn it on number 4, it makes a longer stitch, and that would be the bar tack. Then here, number 5, hits it to 0, and I'm just locking in the stitch. Then I'll go back. It takes the 0 width, but it's number 5 on the buttonhole maker. And then I turn it back to 0, which I would get a straight stitch. So that gives you information about the dowels and the width. Now, one of the things that people are puzzled about, of course, is what we call the tension guide. Now, these are the tension plates where you're actually putting the thread through the tension. But if you need to change it, depending on the fabric that you're sewing or the type of stitch you want to make, what you will see here is there's, on this dowel is a little line. And normally I have mine lined up with that straight right in the middle. There's a plus sign and there's a minus sign. If you want it looser if you're doing applique or embroidery or something to that effect, and you want it looser, then you would turn it to the minus. If you want the stitches tighter, the tension, then you turn it toward the plus. But it's controlled by this little dial here, but you can see as you're changing it what the changes are. All right, so I normally, like I said, I keep it right there, and if I need to adjust it or anything, this is what how I would adjust it. Now, additionally, they all have a place where let's put the foot back on, the presser foot back on here. Okay, and they all have a place where you can lift it up, where the presser foot goes up or down. This one, manually, there's a little deal in the back where you can lift this up and down. All right, now, the thing that was so beneficial back in the 70s was you're being able to use what they call a knee lift. You know, and if you've sewn for any amount of time, once you kind of use something called a knee lift, it's hard for you to break that habit. So when I was looking for a new machine, even though I looked at different brands, and there are other brands that have a knee lift, there were some things that I thought would reduce my learning curve by having the same brand, things that I was already used to. And this one has a knee lift where you place it right in. There's a little guide right here. See this little hole right here? And you take your knee lift. It has a little cushion on the side so you're not putting a dent in your knee or leg. And you're just going to place it inside or push it inside of here. I'm going to pull this closer to the edge so that I don't break anything. Okay, so you push it in here, and then this controls the presser foot going up and down. See? Once I press this, you see how if I press it to the right, it controls the presser foot. So it's a great asset to have when you're sewing and you want to pivot or you want to turn a corner. All you have to do is press this. The needle will stay, and you have it, you turn your wheel so that the needle stays down, and then you can turn your fabric and you can continue to sew. However, it's a little bit different on the other one, and I'll show you that in just a second. So we've got the knee lift. I'm going to take it out. Then the other thing that you would have is, normally put this in the back. The thread kind of goes here, this little hole, and then this little dent is this little flatbed. This helps you if you're sewing larger pieces. Something is holding where you can place your fabric or garment on it as you're sewing, and all it does is it locks at the bottom. It has a little, see, this little contraption where it actually locks in and holds this on the machine. Now, normally when I'm sewing on just regular seams, if I'm doing a side seam or just a regular stitch, I'm using this. But when I want to, where it actually holds more fabric and it's not coming off the edge, and it gives you more control, right? But if I'm putting in a sleeve or a cuff or something to that effect, or working with an armhole or a neckline, I can take this off. I take it off, and I use this little arm to sew on. So it's called the little removable plate, where you will see other machines have them too. It's just, this one is just a little different. And that's what you will find in most cases, that they will provide you a way to sew where you've got larger items and there's something that's holding the fabric. so it's not coming off on the side when you've got to really try and maneuver the fabric that you're working with in order to sew it. So you've got a bed to put it on if you're sitting it on a table. Now if you've got a cabinet where the machine lowers down to the same height of the table, then you don't need this too. But if you are utilizing the machine as a portable item and you don't have, like in my case, I don't have a cabinet, I have, it's on top of a table, so I need this plate. All right. So here you are with pretty much the basics of the sewing machine. I'm going to go over to the other one to kind of just provide you with just a little more info on this machine. So, you'll see that they're pretty much the same. Even though this is the same brand, if you don't have the same brand, you have a different manufacturer, but you will see a little bit of difference on this, right? So here we've got the thread holders. Now the difference in this is you want to use one thread holder if you have thread that is, let me cut this off. If you have thread that's wound differently. There's some, I don't think I have one right now. Another thread that's wound just, regular. It's just wound down. This one, it kind of goes, crisscross that way. And I know that's not the right terminology, but you can actually see that it's not just a regular, like you're winding the bobbin straight on. So most times I'm using this little spindle right here. And then I've got another little holder to keep it on so it doesn't pop off while I'm sewing with it. Okay, so you've got the little cushion to keep the thread from getting tangled as you sew underneath the thread underneath the thread, right? But then usually I've got something else to hold the thread on so it doesn't come off. Then sometimes I may use this depending on, there's a different type of thread you can use. And let's see if I can find one really quick. So this one, if you look at this, see, it's the way it's wound on, and I'll have to, normally I kind of go to superior threads and look and see the right terminology. But look, that's just straight wound on a spool, right? Whereas this one, look at that. Look at the difference in that. So it needs to have a way for this to come off easily. See, like this. Because if you have it sitting up here, then it will still come off, but they've improved it based on the threads that are made. So I would normally use this thread on this spindle, right? So it just comes right off like that, right? Okay, so again, when you thread the machine, you've got a little thread holder in the back. Then you're going to go through the tension guides, like right here. And it has little arrows here to tell you which way you're going. Okay, so you're going to go through the tension guides right here. You're going to go around, and there's a takeup lever right here. I'm just going to turn it so you can see it better, hopefully. That's inside, and it will catch. It's not as visible as this one over here on this machine, but it is the same. See, on this machine it's more visible when I turn the wheel. See how it sticks out right here? And you can easily see the take-up lever. on this one, because of the way it's made, the take-up lever here, let's see, it's in here. Where's my, but you just can't see it as good as you can see the other one because they've got this cover on it and another little guard that covers it so it doesn't stick out as much. But it's actually there. See how I've taken the thread through there on the take-up lever. Then I'm coming down to another thread guide. And then through another thread guide. And then in order for the machine to be threaded, the needle to be threaded, I actually have this semi-automatic threader. So it will actually come down and pick up the thread, and I will see it will catch the thread here, and then all I've got to do is pull it out like that, as opposed to what I did before. Okay, so, and then it's threaded. Then you also have a bobbin case. And here's the bobbin. See, the bobbins now are, this is larger. See the difference in the two? Alright, this one holds more thread, which you can sew a long time without you running out of thread. This one, you know, you've got to rewind, depending on your project, could be a couple of times, but that's no biggie. It's just that this one has the metal, the little detectors for the machine to be notified when this is close to running out of thread. There's only one way to put this one in. You saw the little confusion in my putting in the bobbin on the other machine. Well, this one only goes in one way. It can't go in. If I turn it this way, it can only go in or fit this bobbin holder one way, which makes it really easy. You know, so like I said, they made some improvements, which is good in some cases, but just so that you know the difference. But you still have to take it through the little slit right here, which gives it some tension. It's a little slit right there. And then through the little wire here, okay, where if you pull it, see, it's a little tight. It just doesn't run out, you know, where you can just pull it. You'd have to loosen it, which I really don't, you know, and I'm sure I see a little screw where you can, but I'm not touching it. I will take it to a dealer before or here's a screw right here. Sometimes, you know, depending on your fabric, you may have to loosen, or depending on the project that you're working on, you may have to do something. But this machine is set up so that if you're having issues, if you're sewing on a different type of fabric, then what you would do is that you would go and tell it, hey, I'm sewing on something thick. And it would basically tell you, it would set the tension for you if it needs to change, you know, the tension on the top or the bottom. I mean, it can do that. Not that I've really changed anything on the bottom, but it changes the tension on the top. So if I am sewing a straight seam on a thicker fabric, it will come back and say, okay, well, that's fine. Here you go. And see, it changes my tension to 5.5. Whereas if I'm sewing, let's go back, and I'm sewing on something smaller. Let me check this off. Okay, if I tell it, listen, I want to sew on finer thread. See, it's not as thick. This one is an indication that it is a little closely woven. And then I want to sew a straight seam, and I check off. See, it changes the tension to 2.5. It changes it depending on the type of fabric you're working on. All right, so it took me a little time to get used to, and still, you know, it just always feels like you're always learning, you know, because it just depends on the type of fabric that you have, and you're always kind of testing to see how the seam looks depending on the type of fabric that you're working with. So now that I've got the bobbin in, okay, in the bobbin holder, I'm going to put it back in now, what they're calling the hook, and it just goes in just like the other one pretty much. You close the door, and then you will bring your thread up with the hand wheel. You can turn this manually, and I'm accustomed to sewing with I've done it for so long this way that I don't really like the way that you just start sewing when the bottom thread is not brought up front. But that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that later. But I usually do mine this way and take it to the back, right? And then I'm ready to sew. Same thing here. Instead of this one having something behind it to lift this up, it has a button here where you're lifting it up or letting it down. See? I press the button, or I can press my foot presser when I'm ready to sew, which controls the motor. You press it, the machine will automatically say, well, I guess you mean you're ready to sew. So I've got to let the foot presser down if I am utilizing my presser foot. Okay? So, but it doesn't have a lever in the back like my other one where I can let the presser foot up and down. You're utilizing this button. Okay? Alright, this one also, if you want to change the length, we talked about that. See, almost in the same place. This one, this is the width. Look, see how it changes here? It's, you know, it changes the zigzag stitch. See how wide? That's the width. Okay, if I put it back to 0, it's straight. This one changes the length, and you can see how it's changing on the dial. If I want a base, I'd probably put it on 6. But I can actually clear it, and it goes back to 2.5. And it's a smaller stitch, but almost in the same place as the width and the length. So see, it's a little bit different. I mean, some cases the same, in the same place. I'm already accustomed to that. So cuts your learning curve. Here, this kind of just changes the which side your needle is on. See, it will control, if you press it, it will take it all the way to the right, all the way to the left, or you can clear it and it'll take it right back down the center. This controls how slow or fast I want to go. If I want to go faster, I press this, you know, just press it toward the plus sign and it will go faster. This one, up or down the needle, they're just different little things that it controls. This, you can set the machine to cut the thread. You can press this button if you're done with the seam and you can cut the thread. But pretty much everything on it is, you can see everything is kind of similar. And then from there, needles, everything, same type of setup with the knee lift. You've got a place here to put the knee lift, and everything else you would thread it same way, up, down, and that would take care of it. So whether you have a manual machine or an electronic machine, they are pretty much, you know, you've got pretty much the basic parts are pretty much the same. So that should take care of it for now. We will go over some other things in more detail as we proceed. Or if you've got something different that you need some help with, feel free to put questions below and send them to me. Like I said, you can shoot me an email, thelma@sewityourself.com, and I will address those. So thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Goodbye.